Assalamu alaikum, fam. Hope you're doing well. So, the trucker convoy, I think, has really ran its course. I think that now people should really leave. Otherwise, it's gonna get pretty intense. And I think the writing's on the wall because I've seen videos where people are just dancing and drinking in the street, honking their horns now. And I think as the days go by, the media is going to really spin the narrative against the truckers. And I think good people are going to end up in prison because if you notice, this is like an economic blockade because you're preventing commerce. And since it has spurred copycat movements, they can use this as some type of terrorist activity and they'll lock you up and not even care. And if you know that the media and the liberal politicians hate you because they think you're conservative and that they're going to allow other groups that we know to riot, burn, and destroy and to get off scot-free and get fair coverage by CNN and other things. So if you know that they're not going to treat you well in the media, that all social media will start to censor, ban, turn against you, there comes a point where you have to say, okay, it's time to pull out and re-strategize. Because now it doesn't look good to say like, okay, we're going to hang out downtown and we're going to fight with cops, block the road, but we hate it when BLM and Antifa do it, but now we're going to do it. And so I think it's time for people to say, hey, let's create songs, poems, creative art, have public conversations with people on the street, try to create a different way where you can convince people why bodily autonomy matters, why Big Pharma doesn't have a right to put whatever they desire into your body, and why governments should not be allowed to force anything into the body of a sovereign human. So if you want to convince people of that, you need to pull out and you need to re-strategize. Because the lockdowns crushed the economy, but now the truckers, if they block for too much and certain people are not allowed to pass, well, now they can blame it on you. And now you're going to be the scapegoat. And I think a lot of people have mentioned this already. And I think there's some really good points to that. Because they want to deflect and not have accountability for their failed policies and how they smashed out small businesses that dropped out like flies because of their failed lockdowns that ruined lives. They don't want to have to take accountability and they want to retain that power to do it again. And so if they get blamed for not doing a proper lockdown, people won't let them do it again. But if they're able to say, well, it only was bad because of truckers across the world, then you're going to have problems. And other people pointed out how Elon Musk does have self-driving semi-auto trucks to be used. And we know that Elon Musk is developing, self-driving car technology that's going to replace a lot of workers. So when people are angry that the shelves are not as full, they're going to really turn hard against you and then see Elon Musk and his technology as a savior. So you have to pull out. The dancing in the street, you think it looks friendly, and sure, it's friendly, but then it actually becomes really infuriating and annoying. Others have pointed out how there's not that much honking anymore, but in the beginning, people are trying to sleep, they have stress, they may have depression, and your incessant honking is going to drive them insane, and they're going to want to punish you. Because if you lose the love of the common people, and you don't recognize that the tide is turning and don't dip out, you're going to get the January, the 1/6 treatment. Because what we saw was there was a lot of left-wing provocateurs in the crowd. People got rowdy, they went in, it was over the same day, and then what did the media do to everyone who was there? They ruined their lives. Okay, a lot of those people are still locked up. They're demonized. the media spun so many lies. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she lied about being inside the building. She wasn't even in the same building as the riots. She lied. The media didn't even call her out for lying. No leftist called her out, I think, except for Jimmy Dore. And so they have an entirely fake narrative. And our ridiculous Kamala Harris VP, one of the worst VPs in American history, said that 1/6 was as bad as 9/11. 9/11, where thousands of first responders got cancer, people jumped from buildings to their death, buildings were destroyed, okay? She compared a riot that was, over in like 8 hours, where only one person died, and that was because a Capitol police officer shot one of the protesters. That's the same as 9/11. So Kamala Harris has no problem lying and brainwashing the public with CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all their fake news. They have no problem in spinning an entirely fake narrative and gaslighting the population against conservatives who were upset at the electronic voting machines because the Gay Pride Parade, Black Lives Matter, they were allowed to riot in person, but you weren't allowed to vote in person. And they greatly reduced the numbers, and people were highly suspicious of this, and it caused a lot of problems. And then big tech censorship censored everyone who was concerned and wanted to investigate into the voting. So this is what I'm trying to get at, is if you saw how the American corrupt regime of the leftists were able to turn the news and social media against conservatives in a way where they actually spun a different fake reality, what do you think they're going to do to the conservatives in Canada who are trying to have a noble cause? But when the gay Jewish guy TJ Dichter leaves and says, I'm leaving Ottawa, and you don't really know where all that money is that you donated, you're going to have some problems. You might have got played. Okay? And BLM just got taken off of one of Amazon's platforms for charities because BLM could not give a statement of where all the money is. And one of the main founders of BLM has 5 mansions and lives around all white people. Nearly all white people in a rich county in California. So none of that money went to actual black movements where they need help. Very few of it. They can't trace the money, and they keep finding all of the people who crowdsource for BLM spending the money on their own personal luxuries and going on vacations and such and buying jewelry. So people should have learned that if you have a movement like that, you got to be careful who you give your money to. So when GoFundMe seized the assets, and then when Give Send Go was seized, and then when the Canadian government froze bank accounts, how can you not see? They have done 3 steps to show you that they're going to classify you as a terrorist. So if you're going to stay there, understand what Trudeau said. He said he's going to, if you leave your pet in the car, we're going to try to take it. If you have your kids there, we're going to call, child services, and we're going to cause problems for you. So they're threatening your family, your pets, your finances, and having all that gasoline in the streets is extremely dangerous. Okay? You have people drinking beer, dancing, and then you have gallons of gasoline out. One person lights a cigarette, or a provocateur comes and lights something on fire and it explodes. Your entire movement is done for, and everyone who participated in it is going to be put on a list. And the Canadian government has already said they are going to go after everyone for months to find out who they are. And social media is going to hand over your data. Okay? And everyone who donated to the Give Send Go Fund has been doxxed by left-wing hackers. And the journalists seized control over those emails and have been emailing people, and your private information has been given out. And they are going to enact revenge. This is how the leftists operate. And the leftists own much of the media. And their activists work in big tech. So anyone who's in America and who is encouraging you to continue your protest, they're not going to be there to bail you out of jail. They're going to forget about you and continue their project. So like Jack Posobiec, he's really been into pushing the movement. Laura Chen, Jordan Peterson. There's a lot of big names who are in it. The Hodge twins, right? Steven Crowder. So in the beginning, it was all fun and games. But you need to recognize the fires have been lit in the towers. They are going to crush you and lock you up and ruin your life. And then all the American social media influencers, even the Canadian ones, are going to move on and they're going to go on to the next movement, and you're going to be rotting in jail with court fees, lost your job, and then the media can demonize us, the unjabbed, even more. They can say, hey, look how radical these people are. They were dancing drunk in the streets with children and had gasoline everywhere. Do you not realize how you're setting up yourself to be turned on? Okay? It was fun for a while, but you've outdone your welcome. Now you have to pull back. You have to find another way to persuade people of your ideas. Okay? You have seen that they're going to start bringing in the military. They're going to bring in their National Guard. They're going to do whatever they can to get you to go away. It's noble to stick it out to the end, but at the same time, if you go to prison, you're not going to be able to help anybody. You won't even be able to help yourself. And no one's going to remember you there. Your name is not going to live on. So what you got to do is you got to say, you know what? Let's pack our bags. Let's go home and write some essays. Hand them out to people in the public square. You can have a sticker campaign where it's just like, leave us unjabbed alone. You can do lots of clever things to kind of get your message out. That's the next move now. The move is not stay there downtown and encourage copycat protests like that, because I think they're going to categorize it as economic terrorism, because you're preventing business. You're getting in the way of financial transactions, and the government wants their money. And the common people, when they actually start seeing the shelves become less, when they actually start seeing the results of this protest, they will turn on you with such a vengeance that you won't expect it. The masses are extremely fickle, and you have to understand, they let the liberals, the leftists, the socialists, and the communists, and the anarchists have their movements, okay? They have their legions in those institutions. You are outnumbered, and you are not favored at all. There's a global campaign to destroy religious values, to destroy the citizens' distance from the federal government. And Trudeau and Biden and other leaders like in France, and Australia, they're pro-globalist. They're really for handing over your nation's sovereignty to transnational corporations and global agendas. They want to destroy nationalism. That's why they say everyone who likes nationalism is a Nazi or, a terrible person. They have actively now, for some time, demonized being a patriot for your own country. So when they see you waving your Canadian flags, and then you have an American there with a stupid-ass Confederate flag, you should really take that flag and rip it down, because they're using you supporting the Confederate flag, you being white, and you also being a conservative, to say that you are actually a white supremacist terrorist. And you know that the media is going to turn on you. You have to be smarter than them, and you have to say, we have to choose a more better persuasive argument. Have a barbecue, give out free food, and say, please stop demonizing us, the unjabbed. Like, there's way better loving ways to persuade people. And do not trust the American conservatives who are encouraging you to keep this going, because none of them helped the 1-6 rioters. None of them helped them. Whereas BLM and Antifa, they do crowdsource for their members. They are really into helping their people. That's one thing you can say, is they're way more into having the backs of their members. But American conservatives, they don't do that. And you have to remember, they took down Parler so that conservatives could not communicate and have a separate platform. They have used the hammer of censorship, right? Google and Apple don't like conservatives at all, okay? The majority of their employees are leftists, they're liberals, they're Democrats, they're democratic socialists, okay? And then a lot of high percentage are atheists. They don't care about your religious cause, they don't care about your protests. They have who they want to have. So if I were you, it's noble, you want to stay. You need to get the heck out of there. You need to leave it, and you need to find another way to get your point across. And you need to create a parallel economy. So be like the Amish, but you have to be smart. But see, it's easier to drink beer and bang gasoline containers around and party and kiss and then have these horrifically profane signs in front of kids, people making out in front of kids, doing strange things to where it looks like it's a really inappropriate and annoying festival that doesn't have a permit. It doesn't look like a protest anymore. Okay? You gotta know it's time to get out, and you've overstayed your welcome. Because these social media influencers are gonna dip on you as soon as big tech starts censoring. They're gonna be like, oh, don't cover them anymore. Move on to the next thing. Okay? Tim Pool, all of them. So, you can get mad, but I see the writing on the wall. Okay, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people do. You gotta learn what happened to everybody who, like, a lot of people got put on no-fly lists for even being at the Capitol that day. Okay? You gotta see what the government's gonna do to you. And you can make all the memes you want about, Trudeau is the son of Fidel Castro and stuff. But the writing's on the wall, and you gotta go. You gotta get out. You want your children, you want your business, you want to live to see another day free, you gotta go. Okay? Because you can't play with the government's economy and think they're not gonna punish you severely. And you want no jabs, but the goofiness now is just as bad as the rioting and violence. Why? Because when people are irritated by your presence and the government is not going to give in to your demands, and they see you laughing and having fun while you're inconveniencing them, hatred grows. Just like when Antifa and the climate activists block the road, people scream and I have to go to work and I don't care about your protests, right? They lose the love of the people. Okay? So if I were you, think of yourself and your family and create a parallel economy like the Amish. And that means you're going to actually have to do work instead of dancing in the street. Dancing in the street, getting drunk, kissing is not going to do what you think it is. You're not building anything. You need to build. You need to create your own apps. You need to have farmers markets. You need to own land. You need to have more children. You have to run for office. You have to actually do things. And dancing in the street now and having flammable liquids surrounding huge trucks in downtown cities uncontrolled, right, is not the smartest thing. You have to understand they can easily send someone in there to sabotage your entire movement, classify all of you as terrorists. No American conservative is going to come help you. Don't even know who you are. So I get mad at this message. But you better sit down and think and stay away from them. And stop posting about the convoys. The governments are watching and collecting data, and social media is going to hand it over to them and be like, so and so lives here, this is their phone number, this is where they work, we're going to investigate them and bring them in on charges for supporting and funding terrorism. They ain't playing. Okay, they ain't playing. So recognize the writing on the wall. If they also just got a new cryptocurrency person who is going to be able to find, how they can seize your crypto. Okay? So you see how they are going to find different ways to punish you. So you have to create a viable alternative. You're not going to get those viable alternatives if you're dancing in the street, getting drunk, and saying profanities in front of kids. The media can easily turn your movement into exactly how they made 1/6, okay? And they may even do what Kamala Harris did and say, when we had the blockade, it was a national tragedy. They can rewrite history against you, okay? You can be forgotten about in solitary confinement. There's a lot of things they can do to you. And you have to ask yourself, abandon this event and live to see another movement, or stay and sacrifice your freedom, even though Trudeau is not going to do anything in terms of rescind the mandates. And some places might rescind it, right? But now you have to get creative, like I've said several times in the video. Protests are not just of one kind. You can find multiple ways. But take this advice. A lot of people will get mad about it. But if I was you, abandon that ship.